Lauren, welcome to Expert Rookie.
Hi,
Thank you
Riley.
for coming on.
Of course. Pleasure to be here.
So, for those of you who don't know Lauren is a high ticket sales mentor. She is an incredible human being. You should definitely hit her up if you want to get into high ticket sales. But before we get into the backstory and how you got here, we need to talk about the $6,000 bag you just bought. So you posted on your Instagram, buying myself a $6,000 bag because money isn't real.
Girl deserves a Europe bag. We leave for Europe in 4 weeks and we need a bag to go with the trip.
Explain that to me.
Oh my gosh. So honestly, okay, so there was a couple different things going on in here. Mostly was my mentor pushing me. She was like, you need to brag more. You need to talk more about what you do because what you do is incredible and a lot of people would love to be in your position. And it kind of opened up a door for me that I didn't realize was a little bit like a money mindset issue, that I had a little bit of a block. And ironically, I was going through like a sales slump too. And people always say when you're going through a sales slump, there's something personal happening because sales is such a personal development mirror. So if you're showing up on a call with some resistance, then you're going to get resistance from your lead. And I was going through that and I was like, man, maybe I do have a money block. So I got in the car with my roommate. I'm like, we're going to YSL. So we're going to YSL and kind of, just like from a planning perspective too, we're going to Europe this summer. I've never bought a bag, a designer bag firsthand. I've bought secondhand, I've bought hand-me-downs, all of that, but I've never gone into the store and just bought a bag, and especially not like a non-practical bag.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, we're going to the beach all summer. I want like a 3-month out of the year bag, like so ridiculous, like not something, because I'd like try to milk everything that I buy. I'm like, I'm gonna buy the most practical thing, and I'm like, I'm just gonna break all the rules, and so I did. And we had so much fun. We're like trying everything on. And ultimately, it's like a color too, which I feel like you're not supposed to get a color.
Please show off the bag.
So I bought her.
Oh, love it.
And
holy shit, this is what $6,000 gets.
She's stunning. She's stunning. She's going to go to Saint Tropez with me. She's going to go to Portugal. We're going to go to Marbella. We're going to go to Mallorca. We're going everywhere. And honestly, like I thought I was going to be a lot more stressed. And I was a little bit. One thought crossed my mind, I should return this. And then I was like, wait a second, I really don't care. And funny enough, I actually don't even care about the bag as much as I thought. I thought I'd be like putting it in nice places, like don't put it on the ground. I'm like, whatever, it's just a bag. It's just money at the end of the day. And literally the week after I bought it, my sales block was gone. And I started closing again. I'm like, okay, money's not real. It's fine. You just make it back. So I would say it was a success.
I would agree. I think it's hard to feel that way often because we look at money as, even though it's not necessarily tangible, right? Because it's all digitalized now.
Yeah.
We still see it as something that's so tangible and so physical and like, the fear kicks in when you see your bank accounts getting low. Mm-hmm. Like I can remember a year ago when I had lost my job and I was looking at my bank account being like, I don't know how the fuck I'm going to do anything. And it does completely cause you to shut down. Mm-hmm. So how did you move past that? And for someone who does feel that way right now, how would you explain to them that money isn't real? Money's just an energy.
Absolutely. I mean, that's, like you saying when you lost your job, I've gone through phases of moving out of corporate into more of an entrepreneur type of a position or a commission-based only type of a position. And there's a lot of anxiety around it. And this is so fun because this is, one of the biggest things that I talk to my students about too, because that transition is the sole reason for people's failures. It's not their sales skills. It's not the effort that they put in. It is the mindset around, I don't know how much money I'm going to make next month. I'm fully commissioned. If I bomb my next couple sales calls, I don't have a paycheck. So thinking about it that way and thinking about the scarcity of it will put you in a scarcity type of a life. Like you're going to stop closing. You're going to have more stressful calls. You're going to have that kind of desperate energy. So ultimately, my biggest advice to it is just trust yourself and know that if you've been able to do it before, you're able to do it again. So just know that you're gonna get money coming in. You're gonna figure it out. I think when you start to panic and start to kind of have that self-doubt is when things really, really start to crumble, and it shows.
What would you say is a tool you use when maybe scarcity or lack comes in. Because crazy thing that happened. I had kind of been crashing out for the last 2 weeks. Actually, not even kind of. I was fully crashing out because I was like, I'm starting my own business and I'm doing all this stuff, but I technically don't have money coming in yet. So what the fuck is happening? And you start showing up from a desperate place or a lack place. And in those moments, it doesn't feel like a flip that you can just switch. So what are the tools you use to kind of pull yourself out of that in the moment and remind yourself, hey, I've got this. I can do this. Let's fucking go after it. And yeah, money isn't real.
Honestly, the confidence you have in yourself, whether it be to make money or just show up authentically, truly just comes from evidence. So if you can find the evidence to say, okay, I know how to make money doing this. I trust that I'm going to be able to deliver. And you just continue to look for signs of evidence that things are good. Look for the signs of the positive things you've done rather than all of the negative, the scary stuff, because those are the things that are going to want to come to the forefront. You can just train your brain to see the good things and the good will start to come to you. So I think that's the biggest thing. Write down a list of all of the things that you've done in the past 6 months that is evidence of confidence that you can go on this journey, that you can, support yourself independently and you don't have to go rely on someone else. It's a scary thing to do, and that's why a lot of people don't, right? Like everyone goes back to their corporate job because of the stability. But if you can just get over that hump and learn to trust yourself that you will have the income coming in, I mean, the other side is as good as people say.
Oh, I believe it. And as someone who's on that journey right now, like there is no better world, in my personal view, than a life of doing something you love and having complete freedom. And that doesn't mean there's not discomfort or sacrifice, but at the end of the day, the reward and the getting to do what you love so far outweighs all of the things that corporate life brought and the structure that came with it.
Yeah.
Interesting you say the stack of evidence, because one of the things I have been bringing up in some of my other interviews is that I don't necessarily believe in the stack of evidence. And the reason saying that is when you are taking a leap of faith, sometimes you don't always have that evidence to back you, right? So on my journey recently, I went and solo traveled. I had never done it before. Super scary, especially when you talk about the financial aspect of it. I mean, that's easily a $5,000 to $10,000 trip alone. And then you talk about traveling as a woman alone, which you just have to be more aware in general. And you have a lot of your family and friends telling you, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this. Like, that's kind of a crazy thing. But you just take the leap anyway and you go. Or like starting my own business. I've never done that before. I don't have the stack of evidence. But what I know I do have is the trust in myself and that no matter what, I'll figure it out. And it's kind of blindly leaping. So for me, I don't necessarily believe in that stack of evidence.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a fair thing to look at. And I think there's transferable evidence maybe that you can use to support. But I mean, I would much rather trust and rely on myself and bet on myself anyway. So I think that's a good angle.
Talk to me how you got there. Were you always this confident?
Ooh, good question. When I was a kid, like maybe 4 or 5 years old, my mom used to joke, she's like, if I didn't have you holding my hand or on a leash, you would walk out the door with a stranger because you were so social, you loved everyone, you had this confidence to show up as yourself everywhere. And that translated all through, I would say, high school. And even I didn't go to college. I moved to Dallas at 18 and just kind of started working and built a life down there, was there for 12 years. And I really had that confidence for most of my life up until probably my mid-20s. And then I lost it. For about 4 or 5 years, I completely lost myself. I doubted myself. I had gone through a couple business failures, went back to corporate life, just thought that it wasn't cut out for me, and kind of had to rebuild. But I think that era ended up making me even more confident than I was before. Because the confidence before was a little bit more of like a youthful, arrogant confidence. Now I have confidence that's a little bit more, I guess, evidence-backed. And From a place that is more purposeful and service driven than I was in my early 20s. And I think that I had to be broken down to get to that place.
Mm. What made you doubt yourself outside of these failures?
Mm. I think listening to other people. That's the
Interesting.
most toxic thing that you can do. If you have an idea, and you want to do the wrong thing, tell other people and ask their opinion. If you
Love that. So give me an example. What was something you asked for advice on that drove you down the wrong path?
we were talking about this earlier, but I had kind of gone through all the different entrepreneurial journeys. I was a social media manager, I did branding, I opened a photo studio, and then I actually stumbled into coaching when I was probably 26, so 6, 7 years ago. Coaching was just starting to get popular, just kind of coming out. And I was like, this is really cool. I would love doing something like this. Started telling my friends and family, trying to figure out what my niche would be. I had done hospitality restaurant branding forever. So I'm like, oh, maybe I should do social media for restaurant owners. I don't know if you know any restaurant owners, but they're all like in their 50s and bald. So they're
Yikes.
not using social media, and I couldn't really find them using my social media strategies. And then I wanted to pivot again. And I think just going through that learning process and then talking to my family about it, talking to my boyfriend at the time about it, talking to my friends, they're like, okay, well, don't you think that you've tried enough? Don't you think you should just go back and get a stable job? My family is pretty traditional. But they're all entrepreneurs, but they're also very much one lane. Like they stick to one thing and they kind of go that direction and they don't deviate. So I think to kind of see me do this trial and error, they were pretty worried. So a lot of the outside noise kind of just told me, okay, maybe I don't know what I'm doing, and I didn't, but that's kind of part of it, right? And feeling the security of I'll just go back to an agency, work a full-time job, and kind of do what I'm supposed to do. So that's the thing that really, I think, set me back from the beginning. And I look back now, I'm like, man, I could have had a coaching business for the last 7 years if I had just kind of trusted myself and gone with it. But truly, I wasn't the person that I needed to be to lead at that time anyway. So it all works out for a reason. But yeah, I think, family can be the biggest critic sometimes.
It's hard when they love you so much, but they are very stuck in their ways. And I think your family is often your biggest supporter and yet also your biggest critic and the biggest reason why you don't get where you're going. And that was a conversation I recently had with my family of I'm not going back to corporate. I am not going to be taking the safe route. I know that my money will come from the business, but it might not look pretty right now. And you're going to have to just trust that it will be okay because I trust it will be okay. And your family's kind of like, what the fuck? I don't like that. And it's, not everything is a straight and narrow path as it was for them. And it doesn't always make sense. And we live in a completely different world. And so even though they love you, they often don't see what you see. And they want the best for you, but they're not sure how to give that to you.
Yeah,
at the same time.
Totally relate to that. And I think for me, the best thing that I've done is to work a little bit in quiet, but then share my successes and share my wins, because my family is the first there to celebrate me despite what crazy thing I'm doing next. But it does help to kind of shield them from the messy beginnings.
Yeah, fair. Was there ever a coach or someone who you thought you looked up to, who you had to stop taking advice from?
I've had a lot of coaches. I've had a lot of mentors just through working, and ones that I've paid. Right? I've invested in a lot of coaching. And I think that they all have their purpose in their season. And I think I've gotten a lot out of some coaches and found that at the end of the time, I've gotten what I needed from them specifically and needed to move on. But my biggest thing when it comes to mentors and coaches now that I look for is, do I want to live their life? Do I look at their social media or what they say they're doing, their relationship, their business, and would I want to do that, model my life after that? And if the answer is no, even if it's just one piece, that's kind of a sign for me to know I should look for someone else to work with. And not that they couldn't give me something, or not that they didn't give me something in the relationship that we did have, but it's run its course. And ultimately, I want to be working with someone that I aspire to be like.
Well, they always say you shouldn't take advice from broke or unhappy people. And I think that's fair enough. I tend to lean towards the happiness route because there's a lot of rich people who are unhappy. Or there's a lot of people who, like, on the outside have this beautiful life, but on the inside are unhappy. So what would you say is the best investment you've done for yourself?
Oh, this is a good question. So hands down, Nick Comodino's program has been the best investment. The best, hands down. I have to give it to him. I've worked with a lot of other people who have given me a lot of good business strategic insights that, you know, maybe Nick probably could give me, but ultimately the way that Nick breaks you down from a personal level is something that I never knew that I actually needed. And it's so much more valuable than the business acumen and the business fluff that a lot of coaches will give you. Because truly, if you are not centered, your nervous system isn't grounded, doesn't matter how big you build your business, you will crumble. And I fully believe that. And especially now that I've done some of the work, and I'm really excited to continue working with him on it, because it truly, the last 6 months have been life-changing for me.
Damn. How did he break you down?
Oh, just a mirror. I mean, it's just someone to call you out on the things that, you know, you don't even realize that you're doing. I mean, for me, it was very much an achievement-based, perfectionist, performative type of a person. And that's why I always excelled in a corporate environment. You know, you're climbing a ladder, you're getting these accolades and these awards. And then when I would go do my entrepreneurship stuff, my solopreneur stuff, I was like, okay, no one's cheering for me. Like, no, there's no one here telling me I'm doing a good job. So I'm going to go find someone to tell me do a good job. I'm going to go find someone who's telling me I'm doing a good job. And that put me back into a corporate environment that I was trying to leave. So I think a lot of that came with just self-love that I, again, didn't even realize that I didn't have until I had that mirror in front of me.
As high achievers, it's really hard to see that.
100%.
And when we are in an environment in the United States where everything is so money driven, so corporate, so not 5D, 3D rather, of get this shit done to get somewhere, right? It is really hard to see that you will be okay, and to see that you don't have to be perfect or have an achievement to get where you're going in life, or to just be happy in general.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, something that, you know, Nick coaches a lot, I know in Conscious Leader, but I'm sure in Alchemist Academy too, but you really need to know what your end goal is. What do you really want? And what does that look like monetarily? What does that look like on your schedule? I teach my girls in sales this too, because you can get caught in the hustle. You can work 80 to 100 hours a week. You can make 30 to 50K a month. That sounds great, but it's super draining. If that's not what you want, you're not going to feel fulfilled either, because there's so many ways to kind of create the life that you want using high ticket sales or using a business. And people just get so caught up in the vanity metrics, and someone else is doing 50K, so I want to do 50K. And it can get to be just so much competition that you lose sight of why you started it in the first place.
Why did you start in high ticket sales?
Oh my gosh. Freedom, flexibility, uncapped earnings, control over my finances. Those are just a couple of the things. Yeah, I think one of my biggest dreams when I was in my 20s was to travel and be a digital nomad and work from wherever. And I always said, I'll do it later. I'll do it when this happens. I'll do it when these circumstances are right, because I was probably really scared. And the circumstances are never going to be right. I just had to make that decision with the uncertainty in place. So I saw high ticket sales as that opportunity. I saw really good success with it, and ended up leaving my corporate job like a year and a half ago, and I've been traveling full time for the past 8 months.
Holy shit, that's insane. First of all, where have you traveled? Because that's just so freaking cool.
So far it's been mostly stateside. So Los Angeles for a month, Austin, Scottsdale. We did Tulum for a month. Tulum was amazing.
I've heard there's a really good entrepreneurial community out there.
Lots of digital nomads, lots of people in the fitness space. So that was really cool. And then LA, California for 3 months between LA and San Diego. But I think just it's been fun doing the US tour. I'm super excited to go abroad because I think there's a different energy when you go to another country and you're in a space like Tulum where there's digital nomads. There's other people doing the same thing as you. You start relationships in basically an accelerator because everyone knows that you're a little bit more transient and so are they, and they understand it a little bit better. So they want to get to know you quickly. They're asking deep questions. They're not surface level at all. So I'm not a surface level person, so I thrive on it. It's so fun. And when you're staying in the States, you know, everyone's kind of like, okay, we can be friends, but I can't hang out for 2 weeks. And it's like, well, I'm going to be gone. So it doesn't matter. And there's no energy put into developing a relationship because they don't understand what you're doing and it doesn't fit the convenience for them. So it can be tough to make friends in I would say in the US States.
Oh, absolutely. And for me personally, I feel like it's hard to find like-minded people often who are, like you said, wanting to have those deeper conversations, who are wanting to expand their knowledge. I think Austin is a really unique area because a lot of people are in that same boat of trying to build something bigger than themselves and trying to have deeper conversations. But when you get outside of that, not as much, and everyone is very focused on themselves. One of the things I saw when going to Australia is people were genuinely interested in you as a person and what you're doing and where you're going and wanted to listen to you. Like, we're present in the moment, which is a beautiful thing about traveling, is people want to be present with you. And that allows you to expand your mindset, expand your understanding, your knowledge, your learning. And you don't necessarily get that when you're stuck at home or in the same state with the same kinds of people who think the same way.
And for anyone that's looking to kind of be a more transient digital nomad, I will say Austin has a great entrepreneur hub, especially in the coaching industry. Scottsdale too actually had a really, really good energy when it came to the coaching space online. Ironically, LA was the worst. You would think that because it's like the influencer hub that it would be easy to connect with people. I didn't find it to be as welcoming on like the entrepreneur front, and maybe I was just in the wrong rooms. But I think, you know, it's important for that to come easy for people who are traveling like that. So while I had a lot of friends, I liked LA. That was probably my least favorite when it comes to the community side. And then San Diego actually had a great community. One of the most welcoming, I would say.
San Diego's fun.
San Diego's great.
I lived there for a year, so like it's fun. But yeah, with LA, I lived there for 4 years, and it can be really fun when you're working in production because everyone is just traveling and you're filming constantly and you're just go, go, go. You're literally running on caffeine, fumes in a dream. But if you're not in that environment, it is so hard to connect with people. And I did not expand my network there probably as much as I maybe should have or wanted to, but that's because it wasn't based in genuine wanting to get to know other people, because again, everyone is so focused on themselves and where they're going.
Absolutely.
Do you where do I want to take this? I had a thought. Give me a second. She lost it because I went off on an LA tangent.
Yeah. Well, I can go through where I'm going the next year too. The rest of the year, because that's a lot more fun. So we're done with the US. I'm going to Lisbon for a month, and then a little vacation in Saint-Tropez because it's one of my favorite places. It's very fun if you've never been, but just a week there. And then honestly TBD, but I have no plans, but looking at Albania, Spain, Marbella, lots of good like digital nomad spots there. And then I'm doing Southeast Asia. So I'm going to Bali, and I just mentally committed, because the tickets were sold out, but mentally committed to a High Rocks in Singapore.
Hell yeah, dude.
So that's what's on the agenda so far. Nothing's booked, but I like to do it that way.
How do you keep up with your routine and staying productive when you are traveling? Because obviously there's a lot of things to do. There's so many people to meet. And I know myself, I'm a little yapper. So I'm just all over the place when I'm traveling. How do you make time for yourself?
Yeah. I just made a post about this. This is so funny. I believe that if you require the same conditions to do your routine, then you're actually not disciplined.
Mhm.
If you can go to a new city and find your gym and find your place that you're going for walks and going for runs and getting your food and jump first day, jump right into it, that's discipline to me. And I find that when I go to a new city, I have that energy to get excited about getting back into my routine in a new space. I'm looking for my coffee shops that I'm working at right away. I'm looking for what grocery store I'm going to. A lot of times I don't have cars, so I'm walking to the grocery store, which gets my steps in, which is part of my routine. So, yeah, I mean, I think that it takes more intention. It takes some planning, but knowing ahead of time where I'm going to be doing those things. And then as soon as I land, jumping into routine. When I got here in Austin Friday, the first stop I did was the gym. The second was the grocery store. And that's just a non-negotiable for me, because then the rest of the time I'm already in routine. I don't have to wait until Monday or wait until, XYZ happens. It's just there. There's like no gap.
Would you say that people associate travel with maybe vacation or being lazy, and thus they don't pick up their routine when they are wanting to be a digital nomad?
Totally. I have to remind people all the time when I travel that I'm still working. This isn't vacation. There's some times where I am unplugged and I turn my calendar off, but 95% of this year I will be I will be working while I'm traveling. Because the cool thing is I don't need vacation. Right? Like, I'm going to places that I want to go, and then I'm just doing my life there. And yeah, obviously you got weekend days, so you can go explore, you can do all of that. So yeah, I think, to associate travel with only vacation would burn me. It would burn you out if you're trying to be a digital nomad. You have to have balance. And for me, I get motivated to work harder because I look around me and I'm like, okay, if I don't work hard and keep up my business and make sure money is coming in, I can't continue to do this. So if anything, for me, it's more of a motivator.
I was explaining this to someone recently that, yeah, I work more hours, and yeah, I'm kind of just constantly between working and not working, but that's part of the fun of being able to travel and do what I love. Is I'm happy to be working. I'm happy to work more hours. And even if that means like, oh, I'm working on a Saturday, but I'm in Australia or, I'm in San Tropez or wherever I'm traveling, it's worth it, because I would way rather be working there than in some dusty corporate office with terrible lighting and AC so cold you have to wear a freaking winter jacket inside.
Exactly.
And to me, that's my happy place. I'd way rather be doing that any day of the week.
Fully agree. I mean, you ever hear people will say, challenge yourself, get the apartment that's more expensive, so when you wake up you're motivated. I think it's a similar situation. You're just doing it a little bit different. And some people, myself, it sounds like you included, like, we don't want to be stationary. So I'd much rather be in someone else's apartment in a different city and getting that same motivation. I think it's just how you want to kind of frame things.
You said you saved $30K this year by being a digital nomad. Explain that to me.
Oh my gosh, I think I was probably joking.
Yeah. Me and the rest of the world were so hopeful about that. I'm like, tell me everything.
Well, so the reason I said I saved $30K this year by being a digital nomad is because I did look at last year, and maybe the year before, I did look at a previous year of what I spent on vacations.
Okay.
And I had gone on several vacations, a couple pretty big ones that were pretty expensive. And then I thought about what I'm doing over the next year, and I don't have any vacation budgets. I don't have anything where I'm, taking money to specifically go on vacation. I'm in a situation where I was paying for a studio in Michigan, and I did have a car when I first started doing this. I've since sold my car, so I no longer have a car payment. I no longer have insurance. I moved out of my studio, so I no longer have rent. So the trade-off is my rent is Airbnbs. And I just did the math on this. Over the last 9 months, I have spent just north of $19,000. So it averaged to $2,300 a month to live in really nice places in the best cities around the US, in Tulum. And Europe's going to end up being cheaper. It's going to be less. I mean, So people will say, oh, it's so expensive to do this, it's so expensive to do that. It's just a limiting belief. It's just your fear and honestly society telling you have to stay here and you have to stay stable and, secure at home. I mean, if you don't, if you want to be stable and secure at home, that's totally fine. But if you want to go travel, there's nothing stopping you.
Stability does not equal fragility, meaning you are at the end of the day as fragile as how safe you feel. So if you don't feel safe, you're not fragile, or you are fragile. Am I saying that right? I think I'm trying. Yeah. You get where I'm going with it though, right? Yeah. Essentially the idea that if you need to have these set things in place, you are fragile. And being able to go wherever you need to go or want to go, and like you said, have the discipline to pick up your routine wherever you are, that to me is the ultimate sense of internal security.
Absolutely. Tony Robbins just posted something and he was basically saying the difference between people who are successful in business and those who are not is the people who are successful are willing to get uncomfortable, and they're willing to do the things that are going to break them out of those habits, those routines, and challenge themselves. And I fully believe in that. And this has been one of the most challenging years in the most exciting way. And it's making me look at new challenges with excitement. And it's almost like bring it on. Like I'm ready for more because I know every single time I hit one, I level up and I'm growing so quickly, and I'm that's to the challenge, right?
In one of your posts you said, or in one of your posts you explained why growth can feel lonely. What did you mean by that? Yeah,
well, I think it goes back to what we were talking about with family and friends not necessarily understanding what you're doing sometimes. And a lot of my friends are from my corporate jobs, and that's where we met, and we're used to the corporate environment, and they're still in the corporate environment. So I think when you get excited, you want to talk to your friends about what you're doing. But if they don't understand what you're doing, it can be pretty difficult to share those wins, those celebrations. So it can feel really lonely. And I know that my friends who don't have the same background as me love me and support me, but it's a different kind of love and support than my entrepreneur friends. But it's sometimes hard to find those and make those right in the beginning. So I think starting off with something like this, and whether it's high ticket sales specifically or starting your own business, it can feel really lonely. I mean, a lot of the students that I talk to, they have the same thing. They tell their friends what they're doing and they're like, is that an MLM? Is that a scam? And people start to pick seeds of doubt into your thought process, into what you're doing. And so you end up being a recluse. You kind of recoil because you don't want to have that judgment. So it can be tough to keep going. And honestly, ultimately just, a lonely season.
Do you think being a digital nomad makes it lonelier?
Oof, good question. I think it depends on what city I'm in. Because some cities I felt more lonely than others. But if you can have the community around you, like Austin's community was very welcoming. San Diego's community was super welcoming. That makes it a lot easier. But I also go through seasons too, where, I'm really social. I can kind of put myself out there, and I go through seasons where I don't really want to do it. And it's a challenge. It gets you out of your comfort zone. There's a lot of rejection therapy and being a digital nomad and trying to walk up and be like, do you want to be my friend? So I think it depends on the city and the season for sure.
Okay. What city would you say felt the most like home, or felt the most where you were able to connect and grow with people?
LA felt like home just because I was there for a long time. But I actually felt pretty lonely there. Maybe the loneliest in my travels so far. I would actually say Scottsdale was one of the most welcoming.
Okay.
I made some really great girlfriends really quickly, and some of them were in Impact. But some of them were just out and about, and ended up clicking with some people, and I am very fond of my Scottsdale experience. And ironically, I was sober for a majority of it, but I was still going out, and I was going out sober. And it's one of the first seasons of my life where I was going to bars and clubs completely sober, and I actually loved it. It was so fun.
Really?
Yeah, I think I need to run that back.
Yeah. What do you think was different about it?
I think the people that I was around, yeah, and I don't know. I can't put a finger on it. I truly think it's the people. I think the people drive so much of like your energy and what's happening around you. So if you can't find that pocket, it just, I don't know, it can get really tough. So, yeah. I don't
Do
know if
you?
that answered your question.
Yeah, no, I think that did. I, Lauren, I genuinely love talking with you because there's so many different ways I want to take this. The question is just, what way do I
Where
want
do
to
we go
go?
from here?
Do you believe that your community determines your happiness?
Yes. Yes. Community and weather.
And what? Fair. A good sunny day always makes things better.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are the two things that I think are the most important.
Why?
So are you familiar with like the blue zones?
Mm-mm.
So blue zones are areas of the world where people tend to live the longest. And there's a bunch of things that go into it. A lot of it is, food, exercise, activity. But a couple things that, sorry,
No, you're good.
but a couple things that kind of shocked people to see in the blue zones that were very consistent were connection, community, and spirituality. So they were very strong in these communities that lived long. So I learned about blue zones probably 8 years ago and kind of really got into a deep dive on it. And ever since then I've valued that connection, the human connection, because I do believe it gives us purpose. It makes us enjoy life and it makes us live longer. I mean, it's science, there's data behind it. So, yeah, I think that's the biggest reason. I think that's the biggest pull. We're, social creatures by nature, and if we're put into loneliness, it's gonna literally take years off of our life.
I've been thinking about that as the last year I was living with my mom. And while I love living with my mom, it's still very lonely. And I wasn't necessarily connecting with people at work.
Mhm.
And I wasn't going on dates either because I'm not bringing someone home to my mother's house. That is so weird. And I like wasn't going out anymore. And I
Yeah, because
and
your mom's calling you at like 11, like, where are you?
literally, are you coming home yet, sweetie? No. Or like trying to sneak someone up the stairs. Absolutely not. No. But I thought this was just part of the lonely chapter. And then we'll move on and we'll go somewhere else and it will be fine. And then you realize that you're in all of these other communities, but yet you're also on your own journey, especially as an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
And I think you start to question what is the purpose of what I'm doing, right? And for me, it was always like, I want to be in a career that I love and that I'm passionate about and that I'm happy.
Mhm.
And I go to my best friend's wedding this past weekend,
Mhm.
and I'm sitting there with my best friends and this beautiful village of people that they have surrounded themselves with. And I'm just kind of contemplating the true meaning of what this is all about. Because at the end of the day, yes, it's really great to have a place to go and a job that you go to that you love,
Mhm.
but it doesn't really mean anything if you don't have the people around you that you love.
Mhm.
And so there's that saying that you want to love to go to work and love to come home. How do we make, not only how do we make both of that a reality, but it makes me wonder why we've placed so much emphasis on the job in the first place
Mhm.
and not on the community and the
Mhm.
people.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I could go down a rabbit hole of that on corporate conspiracy, but
Please.
I do first I want to touch on the community piece and just say, especially as someone traveling, obviously it's difficult to create community when you're transient, when you're in different places. I was telling you right before we got on here, when I go to a new city, I go to church. I go to a church near me, and it's done a really great job of just like getting me connected and making me feel connected to community, connected to God, and just like a little bit more at home. But the first time I ever did this, I walked into a church. I was in LA, and no expectations. I don't know. I had had this pull to go to church for a couple weeks, and I walked in, and the service was literally made for me. And it was exactly what we're talking about. So the pastor was talking about how transient LA is and how they get a little frustrated of people going to different churches, church hopping, moving around. And he was making the point that community is intentional. And even if you're only here for a season, you have to put in the work to create that bond. Otherwise, you're not going to have that fulfillment. You're not going to have that purpose that we're talking about. And he told a story about a family that was from, European country. They were in town for 2 weeks. They came to church. They interacted with people. They ended up mentoring a few young couples, and they made a huge impact in just 2 weeks that they were there. And he made the comment, some of you have been here for 5 years and you've not done that impact. So I walked out of that going, wow, I need to make more intention on the community that I'm have in front of me, and also was really pulled to just make more of a digital community and emphasize how important it is to connect with people that aren't biased, because you can still have that connection. You can still create that online, which is why, I have my sales community. I have my girls that I stay connected with and just really encourage them to talk to each other, because when you can't talk to your friends and family, who are you going to fall back on? You have to have someone there. And, I think that it's just a really good through line with honestly everything that we've been talking about.
How do you think your community helps you find purpose?
For me, I mean, I have been in situations where I'm making buckets of money and I'm doing really well and I'm scaling companies and like the system side, and I'm good at it. So that feels fulfilling, but nothing measures up to the feeling that I get when one of my girls closes their first deal, or one of my girls overcomes an objection that they've been really struggling with. I think being able to coach someone and give them a skill to have the ability to do what I'm doing, have the ability to break out of the corporate chains that so many of us are tied to, that fulfillment is my purpose, my mission in all of this. I would do it for $0.
I freaking love that. How do you feel like you found your purpose? Because I know you said you got into high ticket sales because you wanted freedom and you wanted this life, but did you know that your purpose was to go and coach? How did you find that?
I started on a fitness coaching offer, and I was her first closer. And she had great lead flow, great leads coming in, but she didn't really know how to manage teams. She didn't know how to do sales. And we started closing. We started doing really well, but she had more leads than I could do. I was still working my full-time job. I still was kind of double dipping, and I just didn't have the capacity to take 50 calls a week. So I sat back and I said, okay, I'm going to build you a team. Just give me 3 weeks. I'm going to hire, train, and build out an entire system for setters, closers, everything. So I brought on 6 setters and 4 closers.
Damn.
And mind you, I had no idea what I was doing. I just saw the inbound messages and I was like, I can make money out of this.
Blind faith. You just get it.
It was one of the first times in a long time that I saw a vision, I saw the end goal, and I was like, I know that I've never done this before, but I have faith in myself to get it done. I have faith that I will know what to do in the moment. And I just trusted my instinct. And so it took about 2-3 weeks to get the team on board. The first month they were on was a half month, and we did $45,000 in sales.
Holy shit.
The second month, June, we did $105,000 in sales.
Damn, queen.
So
Let's
safe
go.
to say it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, before she brought me on, she was doing 10K. So we 10x'd her business just by building out this team. And I just was like, wow, this is what I need to be doing. And that was the first experience that I kind of had mentoring other reps, because I was managing them. I wasn't on calls as much. And I loved it. And I didn't even think about it being something that I could do outside of, someone else's business. I was still building up her business, not my own. And after 8 or so months of doing that, I really looked at, my life and where I wanted to go. And I wanted my own business. I wanted something that, was completely solo for me. And that's when I found Nick's program. And I joined Nick's program with 2 businesses that I was running. And the goal was for someone else. I was running a tech company and I was running a fitness offer and running their whole sales department, just doing everything on the sales side. And I found Nick and I was like, okay, Nick knows what he's talking about. He obviously has, the marketing piece down, and there's something about personal development that I keep hearing from him. Maybe I could use that. So I did the sales call, and I just had this gut feeling, this intuition that I'm like, I don't even know what I'm signing up for, but I need it. And I remember thinking that, and I was like, you know what, let's do it. Signed up. And 2 months later, I started my coaching program.
Holy shit.
Just from the encouragement, just from kind of the energy in the room. And, honestly, just kind of like looking at what I was doing in those businesses and how much how much of a pull I didn't even realize I had to starting my own thing. So I think just like having that encouragement and being around other people who were kind of feeling the same way, it gave me the trust and that leap of faith to go all in on myself for once.
Which is a hard thing to do, to say the least. But like you said, you kind of had that blind faith in yourself to go after it, no matter what delusional confidence may it be. But look at where you are now. How did your gut play into all of this, and how did you know when to trust your gut?
I don't know if you have this too. I think women all have this, but our intuition is so strong. My intuition is really strong, to the point where like I will get sick if I have something on my mind and I'm not acting in alignment with it. So I think, it literally is my gut instinct. When I feel my stomach kind of having that tightness and I'm like, okay, whatever situation just happened is not aligned with what I need to be doing, I just pay attention to it. And I think, sometimes I'll take it as just a directional indication, and I'll kind of keep going. And if I continue to get it, if it continues to pop up, then I know I need to make a change. So, for example, I was working with a company, and there were little things that I was like, I don't feel aligned with that. I wouldn't have done things that way. I'm not really feeling like this is the right way to do things, but I didn't necessarily have a say. And after several times of feeling that, I decided, you know what, this is a great opportunity, but I have to walk away, because this isn't making me feel good, and I'm literally getting sick. So there's obviously something that's just, my body isn't right with it. And as soon as I left, it was like a huge weight off my shoulders.
Yeah. Well, they say you have 10 million nerve endings in your gut, and that's what translates up to the brain.
Wow.
That's why like dieting and doing an anti-inflammatory diet is so important, is because it actually detoxes everything in your gut, so it's not constantly sending pain signals to your brain being like, I'm having anxiety and I'm crashing out. And it's like, no, your gut is literally just trying to tell you the food you're eating is shit. But to that note, I had that happen with my ex. So about, I want to say like 2 weeks before we broke up, I actually got the gut feeling of this isn't right anymore. And I didn't listen to it, and it just kept getting stronger and stronger and like worse and worse until I was like totally spiraling out, right? And I ended up finally making the decision of like, this is not working anymore, only to hop on the phone with him and have him break up with me. And I was like, that is so crazy. Like, what are the chances of that? But it's because it wasn't aligned, and we both knew it at the time. But your body knows sometimes even before you know, or you want to admit to the situation, which I think is, again, the coolest thing about the human body is there's so much going on that we don't understand, and so much that it's constantly trying to communicate with us.
Yeah, I think the resistance to it too is what causes so much anxiety. And I think that's why we have so much anxiety in our culture. That's so interesting that you say the nerve endings. So would it be a safe assumption to say that people who maybe don't have a healthy gut don't have as strong of an intuition?
Yes, for sure. I know there's been a lot of research around it. I don't know exactly the research, but
I like a made up theory.
Yeah. We'll just run with it. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of my whole brand. So, but our gut is so important, and our intuition is so important in helping us make decisions. But a lot of times we don't like to listen to it because it might not be telling us something we want to hear. And so we kind of just ignore it and push it into the background, and we continue to do things for ourselves that aren't healthy or in alignment, as you said. But a perfect example of this is I was very heavily partying and drinking, and like, don't get me wrong, I love a good party, but I was doing things that were completely out of alignment with myself and just working myself into the ground, hanging out with people who weren't necessarily good for my emotional health. And I just kept not listening to my body until I ended up in the hospital. And I know I'm not the only person who that's happened to. We just love to push things to the side because it's easier and maybe it's more fun to live the life that we're living instead of trying to listen to what our body tells us.
The path to healing is not fun.
I feel like that is a perception thing, though. I think so. I've been thinking about this, and you tell me what your thoughts are. But there's so many podcasts and people and really incredible mentors out there who keep talking about how success is like, it takes so much hard work and it takes so much sacrifice and it's so tough and like you have to put in the hours. But I also feel like that's just your perception. I feel like this can be fun if you look at it that way. And that doesn't mean there's not discomfort, but discomfort doesn't have to mean suffering.
Yeah.
What is your take on that?
Yeah, I fully agree. I think Alex Hormozy is probably the one that most think of when you think of, okay, the hustle guy. Like he pushes the whole narrative of, you have to work yourself to the ground, outwork your chances of failure. And there's a lot to that, right? Like working hard is going to get you where you want to go. But I think that a lot of people do it from a dysregulated nervous system, and they're doing it out of anxiety rather than doing it out of productivity. And, kind of going back to the healing journey is messy and it's hard and it's difficult. But I think what's fun is the other side of it. When you do kind of have that a little bit of regulation or at least awareness of some of the things that you might be doing that, aren't serving a healthy environment for you, and recognizing that, there are seasons that you work and then you can take a rest if you're an entrepreneur. I think this is like I've said this before, but this is the third time that I've gone into entrepreneurship, and it's the only time that I've ever relaxed. I think that I've learned how to say, okay, like, yes, I could be doing more, but the rest piece of it, the creative space that I can give my body and my mind by going for walks and doing things that are fun are far more productive than me just sitting on my laptop for 18 hours a day like I used to do. And I think that when you can figure that out and not have the anxiety piece, that nervous system dysregulation, that's the fun part. So I totally agree. I don't think that you have to be, that blood, sweat, and tears, grind your face off entrepreneur to be successful. I think that, honestly, for most people, it's probably not the path that's going to lead them to success. It's going to lead them to quitting. I don't believe in failure. I believe in quitting. So you either quit or you're successful. There's nothing else.
No, because every failure is something you've learned. And at the end of the day, it is such a culture thing to grind yourself into the ground. And I know for me, that's why I burnt out so many times. Yeah. And I always feel it too when I'm working on something hard and I'm like, I can feel my block coming up of my body not wanting to burn out. But at the end of the day, I know I've put in the work on the back end to make sure, hey, we can get through this. We can stay calm, and like we go and take a walk, or we go and eat chocolate or crumble cookie because that makes me feel good. Something to calm your nervous system down instead of just staring at the computer, like you said, for 18 hours. Trying to make something work, when at the end of the day, what you really need is to give your brain a break. Why do you think high achievers fall short?
Most of them, us, are looking for the praise rather than the actual goal. So to go back to, you get so much more praise in a corporate environment because that's the way that it's structured, because that's how they keep you there, because you feel good about what you're doing. You're getting all of these, responsibilities that make you feel important, and people telling you that you're important. So when you go on your own and you are a high achiever and you're used to that kind of an environment and you no longer have that, you're completely self-motivated, it can be really discouraging. And I think that is the biggest cause for quitting that most high achievers have when they're trying to do their own thing, especially like in the high ticket sales space. And also just knowing, like you said it really nicely, like there's no failures, it's just a lesson, and being able to take that lesson and apply it to your next rep. Um, because a lot of high achievers, I think, are scared of that failure. There's so much fear around the failure that, they're not willing to put themselves in a situation that might end up in failure. So I actually just did a bunch of research on self-handicapping. Have you heard of the term?
No, what is that?
So self-handicapping it's a human behavior that a lot of high achievers do, especially if you were a high achiever in middle school or high school or when you were young. Essentially, you are going to set yourself up for success by any means necessary. So that actually means instead of taking the hardest task, you're going to take something that's more moderate. That's more moderate difficulty, because if you do the moderate task, you know that you can succeed. So you're almost just like kind of just manipulating the game to give you a win, but then you're never putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation.
You're giving yourself a glass ceiling.
Exactly.
Wow. I had never heard of that before, but it makes so much sense, because a lot of us high achievers often are like, why am I not getting where I'm going? Well, it's because you already set the bar so low, not intentionally, just because you want to succeed, that you're not allowing yourself an unlimited ceiling to work underneath. We're going to make a quick pivot. Okay. Talk to me about your nightlife era.
Okay, so I think I mentioned before that, I moved to Dallas at 18, which is already kind of crazy. I was definitely the wild child. And my parents didn't love the fact that I was moving to a big city out of my small West Michigan hometown. And I was chasing a boy. And my high school boyfriend had been living down there. And I was like, I'm moving to Dallas. I'm going to do this. And my dad was like, you know what? I'm going to pay for 6 months, 8 months of your rent, and you got to get a job though. You got to figure it out. And I was like, okay, cool. So he goes, I only have a couple rules for you though. I go, okay, Dad, what are my rules? He goes, you cannot do the 3 Ps.
Okay. What are the 3 Ps?
Okay. He said, no porn, no pole, no prostitution. He said, you can make money any other way. I said, can I sell drugs? He goes, it doesn't start with a P.
Shut up. Go, Dad.
So, all jokes aside though, I moved to Dallas, and I had served before, right, at a restaurant. So I'm like, I'm going to get a serving job. I'm going to get like a bartending job. So I walked straight up to the line that my dad drew, and I got a job at Twin Peaks. And if you don't know what Twin Peaks is, it's kind of like a Hooters, but it's classier. So I started working at Twin Peaks. They promoted me to a bartending position pretty quickly. I actually travel trained, and when I was 19, I went to, I think, like 16 or 17 different cities, opening stores for them, and was making great money, was traveling, meeting people. It was so fun. I think that's honestly where I got a lot of my digital nomad excitement from. I'm like, I want to be on the road in hotels working. And so did that for a couple years, and then, graduated up to the nightlife scene, which in Dallas, when I started working in the clubs, Dallas was really fun. There was a lot of really fun clubs. There was a lot of good things going on. I actually worked at more of like a college type bar instead of like the night clubs when I started. And it was like speed bartending. So I would go in at 12:30 I would go into the bar at 9:00. We'd sit around, wouldn't do anything until 12:30. And then we would get slammed, just hammered with 21-year-old drunks from 12:30 to 2 in the morning. And we'd all walk away with like $800 to $1,000.
Holy shit. And as a 19-year-old, you're rich then.
I was rolling in it. I mean, I was like pissed if we made less than $1,000 a night. And then I transitioned to like doing the bottle service type stuff. I worked at like a lot of speakeasy lounges. I never got into kind of the more, I would say a little bit more of like the scene-y clubs, but I loved it, and it was social, and I was making great money. And I remember thinking, like, I'm never going to be able to make this much money in this short amount of time again in my life. Like, this is, you're making $1,000 in 2 hours of work. And then I found high ticket sales, and I did my average hourly rate over the last several months. When I'm closing, my average hourly rate ends up being $530 an hour. So
holy fucking shit.
Safe to say I found something better than
Yeah.
cocktail waitressing.
Hands down.
I don't have to stay up until 4 in the morning. You know, I'm not in an environment where everyone's drinking and everyone's kind of, you know, doing the party scene, which I grew out of very quickly. I'm glad that I got it over with in my early 20s. And, you know, I can do it from wherever. So I definitely won. And it's funny seeing the synergies between it, because truly it's like, it's the same kind of money. And it's honestly the same kind of thing. You're talking to people, and I love talking to people. Now I solve problems. Back then I created them. So I guess we're kind of moving up from that. But I think there's a lot of synergies between that. And if anyone's in, you know, the nightlife or bartending scene or a waitress, you guys are perfect fits for salespeople, for high ticket sales closing. Like, you will crush it. So I always encourage people, if they're in the industry, to pivot.
I hope you all heard that. You guys need to go hit up Lauren. She is your girl if you want to make some money. Lauren, where can people find you?
Okay, so my Instagram is @laurenk.k. That is where most of my content goes. I do have a TikTok. Honestly, I couldn't tell you what the handle is, but you'll find me if you find my Instagram. And yeah, and that's the main place. You know, my main focus is working with reps to build them up, build the sales skills they need to be making $500 an hour, and ultimately get them in the mindset of they're capable of doing this on their own. They don't need the corporate lifestyle. They don't need to stay at the stable job, and really work on that personal development side too. And then, yeah, I directly place them with coaches too. So everything is very hands-on. Everything is customized. I don't believe in, you know, kind of just throwing you to the wolves. It's a very one-on-one guided type of a mentorship.
Absolutely love that. Well, sign me up. I'm ready to go.
Let's do it.
But anyway, Lauren, thank you so much. And thank you for the work you do. Thank you for helping these wonderful women leave corporate life and actually show them that there is a different path and that you can make money other ways. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for being you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on Expert Rookie.
Cheers.
Bye.